welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at gods5minutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. The 31st Psalm was written by David, as its caption tells us, when he was being relentlessly pursued by Saul and was so desperate for any secure place as to go to City of the Philistines, who soon drove him away, so that he hid in a cave at Adullam, where bloodthirsty Saul narrowly missed finding him. The 6th verse of the 34th Psalm reads, "This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles." It's hard to imagine anyone being more poor than this hunted man at the time he wrote this psalm. A lesser spirit would have written of despair and horror at the unprovoked and unfair treatment he was receiving and have bemoaned his fate. This man had to live knowing the Philistines wanted to take his life, that any one of the little company with him, who were regarded by many as having nothing more than a gang of bandits, might decide at any time to win King Saul's favor by betraying him into Saul's hands. As long as he was the object of such intense pursuit, there was no chance to do any of the things people do to live typical lives. He couldn't earn money to buy bread or choose a piece of land and build a home on it, court a companion and start a family. He had always to be looking over his shoulder, uncertain which moment a troop of soldiers would show up with their arrows and spears. Yet in all this, brave David kept his faith in God and maintained his covenant with him. David's answer to the humiliation of having to resort to pretending to be a madman to escape execution at the hand of Goliath's people was to declare, "I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth." Although this psalm apparently was written while in the midst of surrounding troubles, David confidently expressed that his cries were being heard. God doesn't view poverty as we do. We're apt to think of being poor as having no resources of our own with which to change the world in the direction we'd like it to go. God counts us naked and poor when we lose our grip by faith on Him, when we abandon our principles and forsake His law. Our puny little efforts at defending ourselves don't impress Him. He can take a few nests of hornets and defeat an army. Paul was right to testify, "When I am weak, then am I strong." The axiom of an unbelieving world may be, God helps those who help themselves. The reality is quite the opposite. God helps those who can't help themselves. The truth was, while David was hiding in the dank recesses of a dark cave, he was building the strength of character and understanding of life that would be so vital to making him qualify to reign as Israel's greatest king. "This poor man cried," sang the psalmist. The word translated cried means David summoned God to a specific task. He charged God with the preservation of his life on the basis that he was in this predicament not because of any miscalculation or even life choices on his part, but because while he was a shepherd boy contentedly watching his father's animals, God had sent Samuel to anoint him next king of Israel, which had triggered all Saul's jealousy. It is always an advantage in our prayers when we can call God to record of His commitment to keep us safe and fulfill in us His pledges. David's cry was a poor man's cry, for he had nothing more he could offer by way of consecration. It was a poor man's cry because he had the propensities within that would later lead to the failure with another man's wife, undeveloped though they were. He was poor as we all are because he was born in sin, and in iniquity did his mother conceive him. So David's summoning of God was a poor man's call, but it was a powerful one for all of that. For the Lord heard him, and to be heard of the Lord is to be delivered. And so it is added that the Lord saved him out of all his troubles. This verse is David's own personal testimony. He being dead yet speaketh, and his words hold promise for those of us who face life's trials now. Have you talked to God today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at godsfiveminutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.